In a somber moment of frustration and disillusionment, 24-year-old Julia, feeling trapped in a joyless routine as a nurse, encounters a man begging in the subway. Her heart softens when she sees that he bears a striking resemblance to her former lover, Antonio. Amidst her despair, she impulsively offers him a place to stay, with a plan to convince her mother that he's her fiancé. The man, Miguel, agrees, seeking warmth and respite from his harsh reality. Initially, the arrangement seems to bring light into Julia's life, sparking a genuine connection between her and Miguel. Their relationship blossoms, creating a rare glimmer of happiness for Julia. But the joy is short-lived as Julia's mother, with her stringent expectations and deep-seated prejudices, cruelly drives Miguel away, leaving him heartbroken and Julia devastated. The betrayal plunges Julia into a profound sadness, exacerbated by the discovery of her pregnancy and her mother's relentless disapproval. As Julia searches desperately for Miguel in the rain-soaked streets, her hopes are dashed when she cannot find him. Overwhelmed by grief and sickness, Julia faces a harrowing decision about her future. Despite the overwhelming odds and her mother's harsh judgments, Julia resolves to keep her baby, symbolizing her enduring love and commitment despite the turmoil surrounding her. If you are not subscribed, I recommend you subscribe and activate the bell so you don't miss any videos. Before we dive into this story, please let me know where you're watching from in the comments. Julia, at the tender age of 24, trudged homeward with a heavy heart and an even heavier burden. The weight of her recent experiences as a nurse in the clinic had cast a long, dark shadow over her spirits. For a month now, she had been ensnared in the dreary routine of the ward, where each day bled into the next with a monotonous sameness that sapped her vitality. The relentless cycle of illness and human suffering, far from uplifting her, deepened her sense of despair. To make matters worse, her colleagues, who were as unkind as they were shallow, constantly chattered about money, lavish gifts, and materialistic pursuits, leaving no room for genuine empathy, morality, or compassion. The evening had grown late, and Julia, eager to escape the stifling confines of her work environment, hastened towards home. The encroaching darkness of late autumn mirrored her somber mood, adding a veil of gloom to the already dreary landscape. The last bus had departed ages ago, forcing her to descend into the subway system to complete her journey. As she navigated the cold, echoing stairwell of the subway station, her gaze fell upon a young man. He stood against the grimy wall, his thin, emaciated frame draped in tattered clothing. His outstretched hand trembled as he begged for aid. Julia watched as hurried passersby dropped spare change into the man's outstretched palm, dismissing him with a fleeting glance. In her heart, however, Julia felt a pang of deep sympathy. Raised in poverty by a hard-working mother who juggled multiple jobs to provide for them, Julia understood hardship all too well. The man's face, though worn, bore a certain kindness in its features, stirring her compassion further. As she drew nearer, a startling recognition struck her. The man bore a striking resemblance to Antonio, her ex-boyfriend, with whom she had shared a profound, albeit painful, connection. Her breath caught in her throat as she called out, "Antonio!" The man glanced up momentarily, only to avert his gaze once more. Julia's heart raced. She was convinced this was him, hiding in shame. She had longed for a reunion, dreaming of rekindling their past relationship, despite her mother's relentless disapproval and Antonio's departure under a cloud of hurt. "Antonio, it's you," Julia stammered, her voice trembling with a mixture of hope and desperation. The man, his face etched with confusion and sorrow, shook his head and replied, "Young lady, you are mistaken. I am Miguel." He turned away, revealing a look of profound weariness. Julia's mind whirled with a daring, if somewhat absurd, plan. She wondered if bringing Miguel home as a supposed fiancé might disrupt her mother's incessant meddling in her love life. She envisioned the chaos and scandal such a ruse would create, yet her frustration with her current situation ignited a reckless determination within her. Without further thought, Julia bought coffee and cookies from a nearby vendor and handed them to Miguel, who accepted them with a mix of gratitude and embarrassment. As he ate with a ravenous hunger, Julia inquired about his plight. "Miguel, how did you end up here? Why are you not working? Where is your home?" Miguel's voice quivered as he shared his sorrowful tale. "It's a long story. My mother drank heavily, and my stepfather was abusive. They eventually threw me out. I've been wandering ever since, without any papers to help me find work. I sleep wherever I can, on heating pipes or in train stations." Julia's heart ached with an overwhelming compassion for this destitute man, stripped of everything. In a moment of impulsive resolve, she offered him a lifeline. "Come with me," she said urgently. "I'll give you a place to sleep, just for tonight. But there's one condition. I'll tell my mother you're my fiancé. If you agree to this charade, you can leave whenever you wish. It's not like anyone is holding you back. Please help me. I need this." At that moment, Julia's desperate plea mingled with her empathy, driving her to seek an unconventional solution to her pressing problem. "I'm completely exasperated with my mother," Julia confessed, her voice thick with frustration. "She just won't let me have a moment's peace. No matter who I bring home, no one ever meets her impossible standards. She keeps fantasizing about a rich man riding in on a white horse to rescue her." The stranger paused, taking in her words, before responding. "So, you've decided to drive her mad by bringing home a vagabond? Honestly, it's not the best idea, but I appreciate the offer. You seem to have a genuinely kind heart. I think I'll accept. It's freezing out here, and at least I'll be warm." Julia's face brightened with a glimmer of hope. Her emotions often dictated her actions, and she had never dreamed of marrying into wealth or dating a rich man. For her, love and mutual understanding were paramount. She resolved, "If this is how fate has unfolded, I'll tell my mother that he's my fiancé and deal with whatever comes next." Determined, she took Miguel by the arm and guided him toward what she hoped would be a new chapter of happiness. To Julia's dismay, her mother's reaction was far from welcoming. Her mother, Jimena, had long been plagued by hypertension and had even suffered a heart attack, which left her in need of surgery to replace a valve. Unfortunately, financial constraints had made this surgery an unreachable dream. Jimena had always clung to any opportunity for extra work, just to scrape together enough for necessities. As her health deteriorated, her once cherished dream was for her daughter to find wealth and happiness. Jimena's life had been a series of hardships, including being abandoned by a frivolous fiancé and left to raise Julia alone. Her ideal vision of contentment had been a life of luxury for her daughter, accompanied by a successful businessman husband. Such dreams seemed far from reality now. When Jimena saw the scruffy vagabond beside her daughter, her shock was palpable. Why on earth has she brought him home? She wondered, surveying his dirty clothes and unkempt appearance with dismay. Her face revealed a mix of surprise and indignation. Julia, undeterred by her mother's reaction, introduced Miguel with an air of calm assurance. "Mother, this is Miguel, my fiancé. We'll be living here now. He doesn't have anywhere else to go. I hope that's okay with you." Turning to Miguel with a warm, albeit forced, smile, Julia continued, "Come in. Don't be shy. Make yourself at home." Jimena muttered under her breath, "Remember, you're a guest here. My goodness, my daughter, when will you stop bringing home every stray you find? This is a respectable apartment, not a shelter for the homeless." With a weary sigh, she shuffled off to her room, her shoulders slumped in resignation. Julia, determined to make the best of the situation, prepared a meal of potatoes and mushrooms for herself and Miguel. After dinner, she led him to the bathroom, helping him wash his grimy clothes and showing him to his new sleeping arrangement. "This will be your room right next to mine," Julia said, as she laid out a makeshift bed on the floor. "I'll make you comfortable. It's not perfect, but it's a start." In this moment of upheaval, Julia's heart was filled with a blend of hope and defiance. Despite her mother's disapproval and the awkwardness of the situation, she was determined to create a space of warmth and belonging for Miguel, guided by her unyielding sense of compassion and commitment. The next day, a heavy rainstorm soaked the streets, and Julia wandered through the city, desperate to find Miguel. The street where they had first met seemed to offer no clues. The people she asked were either unhelpful or had not seen him for days. Julia's heart ached with the realization that Miguel had vanished, leaving her behind without a trace. Her hope turned to despair, and the relentless rain matched the turmoil in her soul. As she stumbled through the streets, drenched and shivering, her thoughts spiraled into self-doubt and despair. Days turned into weeks, and Julia fell ill with a high fever that rendered her bedridden. Her body weakened as she fought off the infection, and her heart ached from the loss of Miguel. She went through the motions at work, her enthusiasm for life stripped away, and returned home each day to lock herself in her room, where she wept inconsolably. Her once vibrant spirit was now overshadowed by grief and sickness. It wasn't long before Julia discovered she was pregnant. The news hit her like a tidal wave. The father of her child was gone, leaving her to face the future alone. Julia was trapped in a nightmare. Her own mother's disdain and the uncertainty of raising a child on her own. The thought of revealing her pregnancy to her mother was unbearable, knowing it would only lead to more scorn and hardship. Desperation pushed Julia to the brink. Each day, she visited the intersection, hoping to catch a glimpse of Miguel or hear any word of his whereabouts. One day, she thought she saw him from behind and cried out in joy, only to be met with a stranger who bore no resemblance to Miguel. Her hope was dashed once again, leaving her feeling even more lost. In a moment of profound despair, Julia made her way to a gynecologist, driven by the belief that there was no other way out. As she prepared for the procedure, a sudden, overwhelming realization struck her. "What am I doing?" she thought. "This baby is a part of Miguel. It's a piece of him, and it's a reminder of the love we shared. I cannot destroy this part of him." If you're still tuned into this video and find the story inspiring, drop a 1 in the comments to let me know you're still with me. With tears streaming down her face, Julia made the painful decision to carry the pregnancy to term. Despite the harsh judgments from her colleagues and the oppressive weight of her mother's expectations, Julia resolved to face her challenges head-on. The thought of raising her child alone was daunting, but she found a glimmer of strength in the baby growing inside her. Julia's decision marked a turning point. No longer consumed by grief and despair, she began to envision a future for herself and her child. Her heartache gradually transformed into a fierce determination to overcome the obstacles before her. Despite the tumultuous path ahead, Julia embraced the journey with renewed purpose, vowing to provide the love and care her child deserved. Julia's decision to cancel the procedure was a small victory amid her turmoil. She returned home feeling a mixture of relief and exhaustion. The smell of fried fish hit her as she walked in, triggering another bout of nausea. She rushed to the bathroom, where she spent a significant amount of time being sick. Her mother, Jimena, could only stand outside the door, increasingly worried and frustrated. When Julia finally emerged, pale and drained, she faced her mother's stern, accusing silence. Overwhelmed by a mixture of anger and grief, Julia shouted, "Yes, Mother, I'm pregnant. Imagine how stupid Miguel is, and you threw him out. Now your grandson will never know who his father is. I hope you're happy. It's not what you wanted. I'm not going to contribute. You don't even have to mention it. Leave me alone. I need to rest." With that, she retreated to her room, her sobs echoing through the house. Jimena, struck by a mix of guilt and regret, took refuge in the kitchen, where she swallowed sedative pills to calm her racing heart. She cursed her daughter's decisions and lamented the repeating cycle of poverty and regret. The weight of raising a grandchild alone loomed large, adding to her sense of despair. Julia isolated herself in her room, trying to shield her emotions while managing the physical and emotional strains of pregnancy. She found solace in gently caressing her belly and singing lullabies to her unborn child. This small comfort became a lifeline, helping her through the darkest moments of her distress. Jimena's regret grew as she reflected on Miguel. Despite his lack of stability, she saw that he genuinely cared for Julia. The realization that her actions had caused harm not only to her daughter, but also to a man who seemed genuinely devoted to Julia gnawed at her conscience. The shame of Julia's situation and the gossip surrounding it added to her internal conflict. At work, Julia faced derision and scorn from colleagues who mocked her situation. The old nurses, in particular, were cruel in their remarks, fueling Julia's isolation. The relentless teasing and judgment only deepened her sorrow. Amid the negativity, one person offered Julia a beacon of kindness. Dr. Ramon Reyes. He was a compassionate gynecologist who provided not only medical care but emotional support. His kindness stood in stark contrast to the harsh treatment Julia received elsewhere. He offered her comfort and practical advice, encouraging her to focus on the positives and to bond with her baby. Ramon's words were a small but significant source of support in Julia's life. "You are now in a position where you react very emotionally to everything, and that is normal," he reassured her. "It is due to hormones. You should try to forget about everything. Take more walks. Talk to the baby. I assure you that he hears and feels everything. You cry and he feels bad. There you laugh and he calms down in the womb. Believe me, when the baby is born, all those problems that now seem unsolvable will take a backseat. You will enjoy motherhood and the rest. Your situation is not that important. It is not easy, of course, but I want you to know that if you have nowhere to go or need help, you can always call me. I will help you no matter what happens. You have my phone number." Julia clung to Dr. Reyes' support as a lifeline, finding in his words a glimmer of hope and reassurance. Despite the harshness of her reality, she resolved to face her challenges with newfound determination. Her focus shifted to the baby she was carrying, and the small acts of kindness she received began to help her rebuild a sense of strength and purpose. Jimena's heart pounded with a mixture of fear and guilt as she pulled Julia away from the window. Her mind raced, driven by the terrifying thought that her daughter might be contemplating ending her life. The panic-stricken mother held Julia tightly, her voice trembling as she pleaded for her daughter's forgiveness. "Julia, honey, don't do it. Don't jump, I beg you. Forgive me. I'm a silly old woman. It's my fault that Miguel left. I told him you had a fiancé and that you were with him to have fun so you wouldn't get bored. I thought I was doing the right thing. I see now that you are repeating my destiny. Alone. Seeing your unbearable suffering, I realize what I have done. I have left my grandson without a father. I am not angry with you. I love you. It's okay. We will raise your baby together. Don't pretend nothing is wrong. Do you want me to help you find Miguel and forgive him?" Julia, initially stunned, wiped her tears and looked at her mother with a mixture of relief and confusion. The intensity of her emotions was overwhelming, but the truth in her mother's words began to sink in. "Mom, what are you doing?" Julia said, her voice breaking. "I wasn't going to jump. I was just washing the windows. But I'm glad you confessed. Even if you told the truth, I hated you a lot at first. You have to admit that I did. But then I realized that if Miguel loved me as much as I loved him, he would find a way to see me, to talk to me, and to fix things. Since he agreed to everything and left quietly forever, then I hope he does well. So don't punish yourself. Thank you for your support. At least now I will have some peace at home." The genuine remorse in Jimena's voice and the unexpected gesture of seeking forgiveness softened Julia's heart. The emotional barrier between mother and daughter began to crumble as they stood there, embracing each other amidst the clutter of the room. Jimena, with tears streaming down her face, nodded in agreement. "I'm sorry, Julia. I truly am. I was wrong and I see that now. I'll do everything I can to support you and your baby. I promise." The air between them, once charged with resentment and misunderstandings, began to clear. Julia's decision to move forward and accept her mother's apology marked the beginning of a fragile but hopeful reconciliation. Jimena's realization and Julia's forgiveness opened a door to healing, providing both women a chance to rebuild their relationship and face the challenges ahead together. With time, the echoes of Miguel's absence would become part of their past, and their focus would shift to creating a stable and loving environment for the new life they would share. Julia's curiosity was piqued by the sight of the black luxury limousines, their polished surfaces gleaming in the afternoon sun. As she continued to water the strawberry flowers, her mind wandered to the possible reasons for their arrival. Seemed surreal, like a scene from a film rather than real life. Jimena, intrigued by the unexpected spectacle, stood beside her daughter, peering out from behind the curtains. "Look, daughter, what important people have come to see someone. I've only seen cars like that in movies. I wonder who it's for. I don't think any rich people live in our house." Before Julia could respond, the car doors swung open, and several impeccably dressed individuals stepped out. They moved with purpose and grace, creating a buzz of excitement in the otherwise quiet street. Julia's heart raced as she watched them approach her house. She couldn't shake the feeling that something significant was about to happen. Moments later, one of the elegant figures, a tall man in a sharply tailored suit, approached Julia and Jimena. He had an air of authority about him and exuded an undeniable charisma. Julia's breath caught in her throat as he extended a hand toward her. "Excuse me, are you Julia Martinez?" he asked, his voice smooth and reassuring. Julia nodded, her confusion mounting. "Yes, I am. How can I help you?" The man smiled warmly. "My name is Gabriel Alvarez. I'm here on behalf of Mr. Miguel Hernandez." Julia's heart skipped a beat. "Miguel? What do you mean? What does he have to do with this?" Gabriel's expression softened. "Mr. Hernandez has been searching for you. He deeply regrets the way things ended and wishes to make amends. He's been away for a while, but he's back now and wants to be part of your life and the life of your child." Julia's eyes widened in disbelief. She glanced at Jimena, who was equally stunned. The revelation was almost too overwhelming to process. Gabriel continued, "Mr. Hernandez is aware of your situation and has asked me to deliver this message and assist you in any way necessary. He wants to meet with you and discuss how he can support you and be involved in your life and the life of your baby." Julia's emotions swirled within her. Anger, hope, confusion, and a glimmer of joy all mingled in her heart. "Where is he? I need to see him," she said, her voice trembling. Gabriel nodded. "He's nearby. If you're ready, we can arrange for you to meet him now. He's eager to explain everything and make things right." Julia took a deep breath, trying to steady her racing thoughts. This unexpected turn of events was both a shock and a relief. She glanced at her mother, who gave her an encouraging nod. "Let's go," Julia said, her resolve firming. "I need to see him and hear what he has to say." Gabriel led Julia and Jimena to one of the limousines, and they were driven to a nearby luxurious hotel where Miguel was waiting. As the vehicle pulled up to the entrance, Julia's heart pounded with anticipation. This meeting could change everything. Inside the hotel's elegant lobby, Miguel stood waiting. His face was etched with a mixture of regret and hope. When he saw Julia, his expression softened, and he took a step forward. If you're still tuned into this video and find the story inspiring, drop a 2 in the comments to let me know you're still with me. "Julia," he said softly, "I've missed you. I'm so sorry for everything. I didn't know how to find you, and I made a terrible mistake." Julia's eyes filled with tears as she took in the sight of him. The years of pain, confusion, and longing surged to the surface. She took a deep breath and met his gaze, ready to confront the past and determine their future. Julia's words hung in the air, and Miguel's face was a picture of disbelief and confusion. The weight of the moment seemed to press heavily upon them all. Julia took a deep breath, trying to steady herself as she prepared to explain further. "Yes, Miguel, I'm pregnant. With your child," Julia said firmly. "When you left, I was heartbroken, and I struggled to make sense of everything. I never expected to see you again, and now that you're here, I have to be honest with you. I'm in a very different place now." Miguel's shock was palpable. He stood up, trying to process the news. "But how? Why didn't you tell me before? I thought you had moved on." Julia shook her head. "I didn't know where to find you. You left without a word, and I had to figure things out on my own. Your mother was gone, your father had moved on, and you had vanished from my life. I didn't have any way to contact you." Miguel's expression softened, a mix of regret and concern in his eyes. I'm so sorry, Julia. I didn't know. I didn't understand the full extent of what happened. I was lost in my world, and I should have tried harder to reach you. Jimena, who had been listening in silence, stepped forward, her own emotions a tangle of relief and lingering hurt. Miguel, it's not just about what happened between you and Julia. It's about taking responsibility now. We've been through a lot, and Julia needs stability and support. It's not just about coming back. It's about making things right. Miguel nodded solemnly. I understand, Jimena. I know that now. I want to be here for Julia and our child. I want to help however I can. Julia looked at Miguel, her heart torn between the pain of the past and the uncertain future. Miguel, I appreciate that you want to be involved, but right now, I need to focus on my mother and preparing for the baby. I can't just drop everything and move to the capital. We need to figure this out together. Miguel's gaze was steady, filled with determination. I understand, Julia. We can take things one step at a time. I'm here to support you, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make things right. If you need time, I'll give you that. But please know that I want to be part of your life and our child's life. The conversation was heavy, but a sense of resolution began to form. Miguel had come back into their lives with a lot to offer, and while there was still a long way to go, the initial shock was beginning to give way to a tentative hope. Julia's eyes softened as she looked at Miguel. We'll take it slow and we'll see how things go. For now, I need to think about what's best for my baby and my mother. Miguel nodded in agreement, understanding the gravity of the situation. Of course, I'll respect your wishes and be here when you're ready. The atmosphere in the room began to shift from tense and strained to cautiously optimistic. With the weight of past grievances being addressed and the future still uncertain, there was a sense that, despite everything, they might find a way forward together. As Miguel and his bodyguards prepared to leave, he turned to Julia and Jimena with a final, sincere expression. Thank you for giving me the chance to explain. I'll be waiting for your call. And remember, I'm here to support you both in any way I can. With that, Miguel and his entourage left, leaving Julia and Jimena to process the new reality. They exchanged a glance, a silent acknowledgement of the tumultuous journey ahead, but also a glimmer of hope for the future. Bibiano Crespo listened to Ximena with a mixture of curiosity and skepticism. The story was complex, and he could see the sincerity in her eyes, but he also needed to assess the situation carefully. After Ximena finished her heartfelt plea, he leaned back in his chair, contemplating the gravity of the situation. Thank you for coming all this way to explain, Ximena, Bibiano said, his tone reflecting a mixture of empathy and seriousness. I understand how difficult this must be for you, and I appreciate your honesty. I'll speak to Miguel and let him know what you've shared. However, given the circumstances, I can't guarantee how he will react. He's been deeply affected by the events that transpired. Ximena nodded, her heart heavy with worry. I understand. I just hope he can see the truth and find it in his heart to forgive. I'm grateful for any help you can offer. Bibiano picked up the phone and made a call, arranging for Ximena to be taken back to the station once their discussion was over. He then invited Ximena to wait in a more comfortable lounge area while he arranged for Miguel to come to the office. After some time, Miguel arrived, looking weary and troubled. His eyes widened in surprise when he saw Ximena, but he remained composed. Bibiano introduced them, explaining briefly the context of Ximena's visit. Miguel, this is Ximena, Julia's mother. She has something important to share with you, Bibiano said, gesturing for Ximena to speak. Ximena took a deep breath and began again, her voice steady but filled with emotion. Miguel, I'm sorry for what happened between us. I let my fears and doubts get in the way, and I made things worse by lying to you. Julia has always been faithful to you. She's been heartbroken over your disappearance and the misunderstandings. I am truly sorry for the pain I caused. Miguel listened intently, his expression softening as he absorbed Ximena's words. The weight of the misunderstanding seemed to lift slightly, and he looked at Ximena with a mix of sadness and regret. Thank you for coming to explain, Ximena, Miguel said quietly. I had no idea about the lies or the full story. I've been so focused on my struggles that I didn't see the bigger picture. I've been trying to make sense of everything, and it's been hard to reconcile my feelings. Ximena nodded, her eyes filled with gratitude. I know it's not easy to hear, but I wanted you to understand the truth. I hope you can find it in your heart to forgive me and try to rebuild what was lost. Miguel sighed deeply, his mind racing with thoughts of the past and the future. I need to talk to Julia. I want to make things right, but I understand if it takes time. I want to be a part of my child's life and support Julia. I'm just not sure where to start. Bibiano intervened, offering practical support. Miguel, why don't you take some time to speak with Julia and see how you can help? We'll make sure Ximena gets back to her home safely. It's important to approach this with patience and understanding. Miguel nodded in agreement, feeling a glimmer of hope amidst the confusion. Thank you, Bibiano. I'll do my best to make amends and be there for Julia and our child. With that, Ximena prepared to leave, feeling a mix of relief and lingering anxiety. She thanked Bibiano and Miguel once more and was escorted to the station. As Ximena boarded the train back home, she looked out the window, hoping that the efforts to mend the rift would bring some measure of peace and reconciliation. Meanwhile, Miguel began making plans to reconnect with Julia, determined to find a way to move forward together, despite the challenges that lay ahead. Miguel listened to his father's words, his face growing more contemplative as the conversation continued. The weight of the misunderstanding and his father's stern advice began to sink in. Dad, Miguel began, his voice tinged with regret. I realize now how much I let my insecurities and assumptions cloud my judgment. I was so caught up in my hurt and confusion that I didn't stop to consider Julia's side of things or verify the truth. Bibiano looked at his son with a mixture of disappointment and concern. Miguel, I understand that you've been through a lot, but part of being a responsible person is dealing with these situations with maturity. Julia has been consistent in her feelings for you. She endured quite a bit because of your sudden disappearance and the lies that were spread. If you truly care about her, you need to show that you're willing to make amends and take responsibility. Miguel nodded, his mind racing through the events of the past few weeks. I see that now. I should have handled things differently. I'm ready to apologize to Julia and prove to her that I'm committed to our future. I want to make things right and be there for her and our child. Bibiano's expression softened. Good. Actions speak louder than words, Miguel. You'll need to show her through your actions that you're sincere in your intentions. It won't be easy, but if you genuinely care for her, it's worth the effort. If you're still tuned into this video and find the story inspiring, drop a 3 in the comments to let me know you're still with me. With renewed determination, Miguel set out to make amends. He contacted Julia, requesting a meeting to discuss everything face-to-face. He approached her with a heartfelt apology and an earnest promise to be present and supportive. He explained the misunderstandings and reassured her of his commitment to their relationship and their future together. Julia listened, her heart still heavy but softening at Miguel's genuine regret and effort to make things right. They talked through their feelings, addressing the pain and confusion that had built up between them. Miguel promised to support her throughout her pregnancy and to work on rebuilding their trust. As they began to navigate the path to reconciliation, both Miguel and Julia faced the challenges ahead with a renewed sense of understanding and commitment. Miguel's actions gradually demonstrated his sincerity, and Julia began to see that despite the tumultuous past, their love and shared future were worth fighting for. In time, they managed to repair their relationship, supported by the lessons learned from their struggles and the sincere efforts they both made to overcome the obstacles they faced. Miguel rushed to room 5, his heart pounding with anxiety. The sight that met him was heart-wrenching. Julia lay on the hospital bed, pale and unconscious, with medical staff working around her. The room felt heavy with the tension of the critical situation. He approached Julia's bedside, tears welling up in his eyes. Her face, usually vibrant and full of life, looked frail and fragile. He gently took her hand in his, squeezing it softly, hoping she could somehow feel his presence. "Julia," he whispered, his voice trembling, I'm so sorry for everything. I made a terrible mistake, and I should have been there for you. I know I hurt you deeply, and I regret it more than words can express. Please hang in there. I'm here now, and I'm ready to do whatever it takes to make things right. I love you, and I want us to be together. I want to be a father to our child. Please don't leave me. I need you. Miguel's voice was choked with emotion, and he felt a profound sense of helplessness. He glanced up at the medical team, who were working diligently to stabilize Julia. He saw the concern on their faces and understood that time was critical. As the doctor re-entered the room, Miguel quickly stood aside. The medical team continued their efforts, and the doctor gave a brief, reassuring nod to Miguel. We're doing everything we can. You should wait outside. Miguel stepped back, his mind racing with fear and guilt. He paced the hallway, his thoughts consumed by Julia and their unborn child. The realization of how much he had taken for granted hit him hard. His earlier doubts and pride seemed insignificant compared to the dire situation at hand. After what felt like an eternity, the doctor emerged from the room. Miguel approached him with a mixture of hope and dread. How is she? Is she going to be okay? The doctor looked weary but determined. Julia is stable for now. We managed to control the bleeding, but her condition remains critical. We need to monitor her closely. You did the right thing by coming here. Your presence might provide her with the emotional support she needs. But you must understand, she still has a long road to recovery ahead. Miguel nodded, feeling a glimmer of hope. Thank you. I'll do anything to support her and the baby. I'll be here, waiting and praying for her. As the hours passed, Miguel remained at Julia's side, keeping vigil and praying for her recovery. He stayed by her bedside, offering silent prayers and hoping that his sincere remorse and commitment would be enough to mend the rift between them. When Julia finally woke up, her eyes fluttering open to see Miguel's worried face, she felt a mix of relief and lingering sadness. Miguel took her hand gently, his voice soft and full of sincerity. Julia, I'm so sorry. I love you. I want to be here for you and our child. Please, let's work through this together. Julia's eyes filled with tears, but she managed a weak smile. Miguel, it's going to take time. I'm still hurt and scared, but I appreciate your presence and your words. We'll need to take it one step at a time. Miguel nodded, understanding the road to healing would be long and challenging. But he was determined to make amends and build a future with Julia, no matter how difficult the journey ahead might be. Miguel's heart swelled with a mix of relief and gratitude as he watched Julia slowly regain her strength. He spent every free moment by her side, making sure she felt as loved and cared for as possible. The room, now filled with flowers, soft pillows, and comforting notes, reflected his deep commitment to her and their unborn child. As Julia's condition improved, Miguel took on the role of caregiver with unwavering dedication. He knew that every moment mattered, and he wanted to ensure that Julia felt supported both physically and emotionally. He continued to provide her with healthy meals, comforting touches, and endless encouragement. One day, as he was adjusting the TV in Julia's private room, she turned to him with a tired but genuine smile. Miguel, thank you for everything. I know I've been a mess, but your support means the world to me. I never imagined you'd be so devoted. Miguel took her hand gently, his eyes full of tenderness. Julia, you and our baby are everything to me. I've realized how important you both are in my life. I know I've made mistakes, and I'm so sorry for the hurt I've caused. But I'm here now, and I'm committed to making things right. I want us to be a family, and I'll do whatever it takes to support and love you. Julia squeezed his hand, her eyes misting with emotion. I believe you, Miguel. It's been a rough journey, but seeing your dedication and love has given me hope. Let's take it one step at a time, for ourselves and our baby. Miguel nodded, feeling a sense of peace as he looked at Julia. He knew the road ahead would have its challenges, but he was determined to face them together. Each day, as Julia's strength returned and their baby grew healthier, Miguel felt more confident about their future. The support from both of their families also played a crucial role in their recovery. Ximena, now more accepting of Miguel, visited regularly, bringing warmth and affection to Julia. The strained relationship between Ximena and Miguel slowly began to mend as they shared their hopes and dreams for the future. As Julia neared her release from the hospital, Miguel started preparing for their new life together. He arranged for their home to be ready for the baby's arrival, ensuring that every detail was perfect. He envisioned a future filled with love, laughter, and the joy of raising their child. The day Julia was finally discharged from the hospital, Miguel was waiting for her with open arms. He helped her into the car, their hearts full of hope and anticipation for the new chapter they were about to begin. As they drove home, Miguel glanced at Julia and whispered, "We've come through so much, and I know the future will be bright. Together, we can handle anything." Julia looked at him with a loving smile. "I believe that too, Miguel. Let's cherish every moment and make the most of our new beginning." With their hearts full of renewed hope and love, Miguel and Julia embarked on their journey as a family, ready to face whatever life had in store for them, knowing they had each other to rely on. Julia and Miguel exchanged a smile as they prepared for the final ultrasound before the birth. The past few months had been a whirlwind of emotions, but they had managed to build a strong foundation for their future together. As Dr. Ramon Reyes began the examination, his casual demeanor contrasted sharply with the gravity of the moment. Julia chuckled softly, her hand resting on her growing belly. "Yes, things have turned around. We're excited and nervous about the baby's arrival." Dr. Reyes continued with the ultrasound, his face a mask of concentration. "I'm glad to hear that. You and Miguel make a wonderful team, and it's evident how much you care for each other and the baby." As the screen lit up with the image of their unborn child, Julia and Miguel leaned in, their hearts racing with anticipation. The doctor pointed out various features and reassured them about the baby's health. The image was a beautiful sight, and Miguel squeezed Julia's hand, his eyes filled with love and pride. "This is the best news," Dr. Reyes said, his tone warm. "Everything looks perfect, and the baby is growing just as expected. You've both done a great job taking care of yourselves and preparing for this new chapter." Julia's eyes sparkled with tears of joy. "Thank you, Dr. Reyes. It means so much to us to hear that everything is going well." As the appointment concluded, Dr. Reyes made a few final recommendations and wished them well. Julia and Miguel left the clinic with a renewed sense of optimism and excitement. The nursery at their mansion was now complete, filled with soft colors, cozy furnishings, and everything they needed for their baby's arrival. Back at home, Jimena's recovery continued to impress everyone. The sanatorium had been a transformative experience for her, and she returned to her routine feeling revitalized and full of gratitude. She marveled at how her daughter's life had changed so dramatically, from the challenges they faced to the new opportunities and joy that had come their way. Viviana's thoughtful preparations for the baby's room were met with delight when Julia and Miguel finally saw it. The room was beautifully decorated, with every detail considered, from the crib to the plush toys. Julia couldn't help but feel overwhelmed by the love and care that had gone into making everything perfect. As the days passed and Julia approached her due date, Miguel remained by her side, attending to her every need and ensuring she felt cherished and supported. Their relationship had grown stronger through the trials they had faced, and they were eager to welcome their baby into the world. When the day finally arrived, the atmosphere in their home was one of joyful anticipation. Miguel held Julia's hand tightly as they prepared for the arrival of their child. They had faced many obstacles, but their love and dedication had seen them through. As they entered the delivery room, they knew that no matter what the future held, they were ready to face it together. The birth of their baby was a moment of pure joy and relief. Miguel and Julia held their newborn in their arms, their hearts brimming with love. The challenges they had faced seemed to melt away as they looked at their child, a symbol of their enduring commitment and the new beginning they had worked so hard to achieve. Their family, now complete with the addition of their precious baby, embraced their new life with hope and excitement. Julia and Miguel knew that their journey was just beginning, but they felt ready to face it with the strength of their love and the support of those around them. "The greatest gifts we could have ever hoped for," Miguel finished, his voice full of emotion. If you're still tuned into this video and find the story inspiring, drop a 4 in the comments to let me know you're still with me. Julia looked at him with a tender smile. Yes, they are. We've been through so much, and now we have this incredible blessing. I can't wait to meet them. Dr. Reyes continued to offer reassurance. You're both in a strong position. With the right care and preparation, everything will go smoothly. Twins are a special journey, but you're both ready for this. As they left the clinic, the couple was filled with a renewed sense of wonder and excitement. The prospect of welcoming 2 babies into their lives was both thrilling and a bit daunting, but they felt prepared to embrace the challenge. Back home, the news of the twins spread quickly. Jimena, who had returned from her rejuvenating stay at the sanatorium, was overjoyed. She excitedly shared the news with friends and family, celebrating the unexpected but wonderful development in her daughter's life. Miguel and Julia spent the following weeks preparing for the arrival of their twins. They attended parenting classes, set up the nursery with double the essentials, and made sure everything was ready for the babies. Their home was filled with the anticipation of new life, and the love and support from their families only strengthened their bond. Julia's friends and colleagues continued to shower her with support and well wishes, and the atmosphere around them was one of celebration and unity. Even those who had once doubted their relationship now admired the strength and commitment they had shown each other. When the day finally arrived, Julia and Miguel were ready. They went to the hospital with a mix of excitement and nerves. The birth was a joyous event, and their twins were born healthy and strong. A boy and a girl, just as Dr. Reyes had announced. Holding their babies for the first time was a moment of pure bliss for both of them. As they looked at their newborns, Julia and Miguel felt a profound sense of gratitude. The trials they had faced, the fears they had overcome, and the love they had nurtured had all led to this perfect moment. Their family was now complete, and they were ready to embark on this new chapter of their lives together. In the days that followed, they reveled in the joys of parenthood, surrounded by the love and support of their families. Jimena, with her newfound vitality and happiness, was an integral part of their lives, and Viviana's thoughtful preparations ensured that everything was perfect for the twins. Julia and Miguel's journey had been filled with challenges, but it had also been marked by growth, love, and deep connection. As they settled into their roles as parents, they knew that the future held endless possibilities, and they faced it with hearts full of hope and joy. The baptism of Martina and Martin was a grand celebration, filled with warmth and joy. The church was beautifully decorated, with flowers and ribbons, creating a serene and festive atmosphere. Friends, family, and even press journalists gathered to witness the momentous occasion and share in the happiness of Julia and Miguel. Viviana Crespo, with her usual flair, had organized the event meticulously. The baptism was not just a religious ceremony but a grand social event, showcasing the deep bonds of family and the support they had received from everyone. She had arranged for a sumptuous feast, with an array of delicious dishes that delighted the guests. Julia and Miguel, dressed in elegant attire, were the picture of pride and joy as they held their babies, Martina and Martin, for the baptism. The twins, dressed in their finest christening outfits, looked peaceful and content, oblivious to the excitement around them. The ceremony itself was heartfelt, with meaningful prayers and blessings for the twins' future. Dr. Ramon Reyes, who had become a trusted figure in their lives, was also present at the baptism. His presence was a reminder of the care and dedication he had shown throughout Julia's pregnancy. He was warmly greeted by the couple, who expressed their gratitude once again for his unwavering support and expertise. As the event unfolded, guests marveled at the beautiful ceremony and the adorable twins. The press journalists captured every moment, from the touching rituals to the joyous celebrations. The atmosphere was filled with laughter, happiness, and a sense of togetherness. The celebration continued with toasts and heartfelt speeches. Viviana, who had played a significant role in supporting the family, was particularly touched by the event. She spoke warmly about the new chapter in Julia and Miguel's lives and expressed her excitement for the future. As the evening came to a close, Julia and Miguel felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude and contentment. The baptism had not only marked an important milestone in their children's lives, but had also been a celebration of their journey together as a family. The support and love from their friends, family, and the community were evident, and Julia and Miguel knew that they were not alone in their new role as parents. They looked forward to the future with hope and optimism, ready to embrace the joys and challenges that lay ahead. In the end, the baptism was more than just a ceremony. It was a testament to the strength of their love, the support of their family, and the beautiful life they had created together. As we wrap up this heartfelt journey, we've witnessed the transformative power of love, the challenges of new beginnings, and the incredible support of family and friends. Miguel and Julia's story highlights the importance of communication, compassion, and the unwavering support we can offer each other through life's ups and downs. What have you learned from this story so far? How have the experiences of Miguel and Julia inspired you to reflect on your own life or relationships? We'd love to hear from you. Share in the comments below one thing you've learned and how you plan to bring it into your own life. Your insights and experiences can make a meaningful impact on others. If you enjoyed this video and found it valuable, please leave a comment, like, share, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more inspiring stories and content. Your support helps us continue to create and share uplifting and meaningful content. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to connecting with you in the comments.